Okay, what is your name, your occupation, and where do you work?
My name is Jeff Hopp. I am the head athletic trainer at Marietta High School.
Okay. How would you describe your occupation to someone who's not familiar with injury prevention or public health?
The best way that I describe our profession is athletic trainers are a cross between EMTs and physical therapists. That's what most people can relate to. So we're trained to deal with injuries immediately when they happen, anything from, a jammed finger to, dislocated joints, to massive broken bones, to whatever it could be. And then we're also trained to help rehab and get those injured athletes or those injured individuals back to doing whatever they want to do. So we see patients from the time they get hurt all the way through to the time they're fully recovered.
Very cool. So what are some of your day-to-day tasks or roles?
So I work in a somewhat traditional athletic training role. So for me, at a high school, I'll come in, mid morning, sometimes early. It just varies. The one beautiful thing about my job is there is no 9 to 5 set day. But I'll come in during the day and I'll do a lot of my administrative stuff, paperwork, documentation, things like that. And then once athletes start getting ready to hit the field, be it practices, whatever, then we'll start seeing patients in the clinic, and we will start, some injury prevention stuff. We may have kids that just want to get their ankles taped before practice because they don't want to get hurt. We may have other kids that have actually rolled their ankles, so then they're doing rehab, or we have kids that have had surgery, so they'll come in after school and do rehab with us on a daily basis. Once we get done with all the patients in the clinic, then it will be going out and covering practices or going to games to help anyone that may get injured there. So the thing I love about being an athletic trainer is it is not a 9 to 5 job. There is no average day. We could go a number of days without seeing anything significant, and then we might have 2 or 3 major injuries in one afternoon. So you never know what to expect, and there's no telling what you might see when you go to work one day.
Right. That's awesome. So going off of that, what excites you most about your occupation?
I've worked at a bunch of different levels. I've worked at college, I've been in pro sports, and now at the secondary school level. One, I love taking care of the athletes, right? I think most athletic trainers will tell you that they love seeing, one of the best parts of our job is seeing an athlete who was injured get back out on the field and playing. Especially you get somebody that, let's say had a significant knee injury and you've been working with that athlete for 6 months, rehabbing them and trying to get them better, and now you get to go see them go back out in the field and do what they love to do. That's always a great feeling. But another big part of it for me is working with high school kids. We have 30 to 40 high school students that work with us in our athletic training clinic, and they help us with everything from maybe they're stretching athletes and doing some simple things like that to taking care of water and helping us do things at games and practices. So working with those kids, building those relationships, and making a difference in kids' lives. For me, that's one of the things I love best about being at a secondary school.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned that you worked at a lot of the different levels. Are there a lot of differences between high school versus college versus professional?
As far as our job duties, when you're talking about traditional athletic training, in all reality, no, there isn't. It's taking care of a lot of the same injuries. It's doing the same rehabs. What's different between those is quite honestly your what you have available to you and your resources, right? Obviously, the pros have a whole lot more resources than we do at the secondary school level. So, as a high school athletic trainer, we have to get a little bit more creative at times to make things happen than they might at a major D1 college or at the pros. Even those guys at small colleges and the junior colleges, they're kind of in the same boat with limited resources, so they have to be a little bit more creative, and they may have fewer staff. For us, we're fortunate. We're at a high school with 3 athletic trainers, so we're not in bad shape. But we take care of our middle school as well. So we're probably in the vicinity of 800 to 1,000 athletes that we're responsible for.
Oh wow!
For 3 people, right? So when you look at a pro team, and let's say you look at a pro basketball team, and you've got 1 or 2 athletic trainers that are taking care of 20 guys.
Hmm.
and they have a lot more resources. So it's just a different mindset, and just being able to manage time and deal with that many athletes is a little more challenging at this level, but it's rewarding as well. And then there's non-traditional athletic trainers. There's a lot of athletic trainers that are working in the corporate world now. A lot of companies are hiring athletic trainers to take care of their factory workers and other employees, because let's face it, they have the same sort of injuries that our athletes do. They're spraining joints and spraining knees and fingers and wrists, and they have overuse injuries just like our athletes do. So they work in a little bit different setting, but they deal with the same injuries and they're doing the same sort of thing.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a growing aspect of our profession. We have athletic trainers working with the military. You think about our soldiers, and they experience a lot of the same athletic injuries that our athletes do. Even down to concussions and things like that. So there's a lot of areas that our athletic trainers are moving into, because it's the same injuries that we see with the typical, normal athletic training profession working with athletes.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had never really thought about that, but it definitely can kind of cross over into all of those different environments.
Yeah, performing arts. This past summer, we had our conference out in Las Vegas, and I met an athletic trainer that works with Cirque du Soleil. Right,
Oh,
so it's the same thing. I mean, the Cirque du Soleil, those guys are incredible athletes. So they have athletic trainers working with them. There's athletic trainers working on movie sets. You name it, athletic trainers, wherever there's, athletic type of injuries, wherever people are going to be active, they're going to have those injuries, and athletic trainers are kind of the ideal person to take care of it.
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have our certificate program at Emory. It's the Injury and Violence Prevention Certificate. The purpose of this program is to enhance graduate education and prepare students to become leaders of injury and violence prevention within their chosen disciplines. So what would be your advice to someone who's considering joining the certificate program?
I think it would be applicable to a lot of different professions, right? Obviously, it's applicable to athletic training, because part of our job is actually injury prevention. And so for us, it fits right in. But there's a lot of professions that can work on those same lines, right? Being in a factory, anybody being in a factory can work on injury prevention. So I don't know who the people are that are looking at their certificate, but just crossing my mind right now, there's so many different professions that could be applicable to that. It sounds like a great program. I think it will be beneficial for a lot of different people.
If you're interested in applying to the IVP certificate, then email Dr. Dorian Lamis. You can also learn more about the certificate by visiting us on our website or social media.